We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on and on for a while, sir, but the compliance with national election day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's Executive Order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay.
Oh, the woke left is big mad over this. They are big mad. They are seeing their last and final hope in trying to overturn the MAGA revolution implode right before their panicked eyes. And I'm going to show you exactly why the woke left is really panicked. This is going to absolutely blow you away. Come on in, one and all. Great to see all of you here. As you know, I've been on the road this week. I had a wonderful time in Pima County, Arizona, visiting family out there. Even did a little horseback ride, and you may have seen through the Catalina Valley. It was absolutely beautiful. And I want to wish all of you a blessed Holy Week, a blessed Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and of course, Easter Sunday, when we together celebrate the incorporation of the totality of the cosmos into the transformative life, death, and resurrection of Christ. In the meantime, we've got some astonishing developments in the area of election and integrity that is absolutely flipping out the left. It is, after all, the golden age, most especially for our election. So let's start first with the House. We got to give it up for Speaker Mike Johnson and the House Republicans. They certainly delivered. They passed the SAVE Act in the House vote last week and even managed to get 4 Democrats to defect and vote for it. The SAVE Act requires proof of U.S. citizenship in order for one to be able to vote. That is, if the act passes the Senate and is signed into law by President Trump, it will basically mandate voter ID in all 50 states permanently from here on in. Johnson noted that while non-citizens are already prohibited from voting in federal elections, there are currently no mechanisms to ensure that the law is always followed. And that's what the SAVE Act seeks to do, provide that proof of citizenship mechanism for all 50 states. Now, of course, the left is just absolutely freaking out over the SAVE Act. Their desperation to try to justify opposition to such common sense election reform is just getting so, it's just so over the top. The talking point that you're seeing in virtually every left-wing outlet is that the SAVE Act requires last names on documents like driver's licenses to match those on birth certificates. And so it's going to end up preventing millions upon millions of married women who've changed their names upon getting married from being able to register to vote. That's their best argument against this. An act implements a legal mechanism that keeps illegals from voting is now going to prevent U.S. women from voting. That's the best they came up with. That's all the Democrats got on this. And of course, it was summarily dismantled by Caroline Leavitt, herself a married woman. Check it out.
The new voter ID requirements may inhibit their access to the polls. What assurances can you give women voters in America to ease their concerns?
Sure. Well, the SAVE Act, as you mentioned, was passed by the House yesterday. This is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. I believe I'm getting that correct. And this act is a common sense measure. It would require proof of citizenship for voting in our elections. The Democrats have been fear-mongering about this bill, have been saying that married women, if their name has changed, they didn't change it on their identification, would not be able to vote. That is complete fallacy. There are outlined in the bill about how to avoid that. The president very much supports a common sense solution to ensuring that only citizens can engage in our elections. This is critical to improving the integrity of our elections and also the trust that American citizens need to have in our electoral process. So the president supports this bill, and that is a myth that has been proven wrong by the text of this bill. And I believe some of the co-sponsors of the bill have been very vocal in addressing that. And certainly I myself, as a married woman, would not stand before this podium if the president did not support such a common sense measure. Thank you.
If you think it through, this is so easy. This is so, there's a reason why they call it the common sense consensus, right? This is so easy. If you're a Democrat that's genuinely worried that this bill, this SAVE Act, may inadvertently impede married women from voting, then you would suggest some very simple tweaks to the bill in order to make sure that doesn't happen. After all, married women inordinately vote Republican. This is your constituency, Republicans. You don't want them to not be able to vote, right? I mean, this is simple, right? Republicans have won married women now for decades, the majority of married women for decades. So this is a Republican constituency. This is not hard. The bill is there to ensure that illegal migrants don't vote. You're concerned, you, a Democrat, are concerned that it may inadvertently prevent certain U.S. citizens from voting, i.e. married women. So you just make sure that there are measures in place to rectify that concern. Solved, right? No problem, right? Right? Wrong. That's not what the Democrats are doing. Instead, they use that made-up possibility that, again, involves a constituency that don't even by and large vote for Democrats, ironically. But they use that made-up possibility as a weapon to try to torpedo the bill as a whole. They tried to defeat the SAVE Act entirely. They did nothing to try to amend the bill to make sure that their concerns were assuaged. And of course, being the pathological liars that Democrats are at this point, the leadership, the reason they did not do that is because that's not their real concern. Obviously not. A Republican voting constituency is not their concern. The possibility of preventing married women from voting is not their concern. They don't give a flip or a rip about it. The Democrats are freaking out because their future voter constituency, Elon Musk talks all the time about, they're freaking out because their future voter constituency that they've been depending on as a demographic necessity for future elections, because they basically stopped having their own kids, is being permanently boxed out of any possibility of ever voting. That is what they're freaking out about their voting constituency, at least a future one. They're not freaking out about a Republican voting constituency. They're freaking out about illegal migrants being permanently excluded from voting. But they can't say that, right? They're in the 80-20 doom loop. They've staked their flag on issues that only 20% of the most rabid, extreme leftist voters care about. And they've left the 80% for Trump and the MAGA movement for the taking. So they can't say that. So they have to make up some preposterous notion that married women won't be allowed to vote. Just another day in the world of Democrat delusions. Now, against the backdrop to all this, as you saw, you have Trump's executive order that he signed actually back in March 25th, Annunciation Day, interestingly enough, which required the same proof of citizenship as the SAVE Act. So the SAVE Act is basically codifying President Trump's executive order into law, but that order also ordered the process of eliminating electronic voting machines, and it would enforce limitations on the mail-in and absentee ballots. And it called for sweeping investigations into voter fraud that we do see around the nation here or there. Again, nobody's arguing against that. Nobody's saying that our elections are absolutely pristine. Yeah, right. But again, all these measures are flipping the left out of their minds. But in many respects, all of that is actually just par for the course, because it gets even worse for the left. At the state level, there are now reportedly, get this, there are now reportedly over 2,000 election-related bills going through Republican state legislatures all across the country since their sessions began back in January. Now, make no mistake, the Republicans led by Trump are refusing to squander this amazing opportunity we have. They've got the White House, they've got the Senate, they got the House, they got the majority governorships and state legislatures. They are not going to squander this amazing opportunity to secure elections like never before. And they're doing it. And it is flipping out the left. And it's been flipping them out for some time now. I mean, we're talking like going back to 2021. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the summer of 2021, when the legacy media thought that they had politically buried Trump under the rubble of January 6th earlier that year, you had Jim Acosta, the now defunct, disgraced anchor for CNN, former anchor for CNN. He accused Trump of launching what he called back then a slow motion coup. Now, keep in mind, this is the summer of 2021, nearly 4 years ago. And his reasoning was that Trump had completely solidified his control over the GOP. They couldn't believe that. They thought every single Republican politician was going to throw Trump under the bus the way they had been doing. No, that's not what happened. I mean, in many ways, it's a political miracle. But they noticed that Trump had completely solidified his control over the GOP. That's phase one, as it were, the takeover. He established his takeover of the Republican Party. But then phase two, his takeover of the nation, involved passing all of these election reform bills and signing them into law at the state level. So the idea here is that Trump had this like iron grip over the Republican Party and even its state level apparati. And what he was forcing through were all of these revenge laws that were preventing people from voting and using this nonsensical stolen election of 2020 as his justification. So again, this was back in 2021 when the left was freaking out over, at the time, what was at the time 360 election integrity bills that were being considered in 40 state legislatures, with most successfully passing electoral reform, like we saw in Georgia and Arizona and the like. So Acosta and CNN basically saw those efforts to pass 360 election integrity measures as a kind of soft coup or slow coup by Trump, and that those bills were aimed at making it easier for Trump to win in 2024 because these bills would supposedly disproportionately disenfranchise people of color and minorities and the like, as CNN warned. Well, if they freaked out over 360 election integrity bills, can you imagine what they're going through now with over 2,000 like bills as are happening right now? So, I mean, make no mistake, the left is absolutely freaking out over this. And the reason for this is simple. And I'm just going to say it. Ballot fraud is all they got. I mean, when all's said and done, that's it. Voter fraud is all they've got left. I mean, if you think it through, the Democrats have tried everything to stop Trump and the MAGA movement. 2 impeachments, not 1, 2. Even one after he left office. The J6 committee hearings that were broadcast live, primetime TV. An FBI raid of his home. 4 indictments, dozens upon dozens of felony charges, state Supreme Courts trying to remove him from the ballot, guilty verdicts from New York juries, 2 assassination attempts. They even tried switching out their own presidential candidate halfway through the election. I mean, they literally tried everything to stop Trump and the MAGA movement. And in the end, the only thing they had left was election shenanigans. And even then it failed. On November 5th, because of you, the Trump landslide was too big to rig. Now they're stuck with literally no political issues whatsoever, right? The 80-20 doom loop. There's not a single issue that Democrats are championing right now that has majority voter support, not one. And so they're left with the shenanigans at the ballot box. That's it. That's their only hope at this point. And now, increasingly, that last and final hope is itself being dashed right before their panicked eyes. This is what the Democrats are ultimately freaking out over. They're not freaking out over voting rights. Not at all. They're freaking out over their very own political survival. Let's be honest, we're not getting any younger. And if you want to look and feel your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements designed to help with your every health goal, whether it's boosting your energy or trimming belly fat or supporting healthy blood sugar or pumping your testosterone up or even reducing swelling in your legs. Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the good old USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. All you have to do is go to purehealthresearch.com and then use coupon code TURLEY at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there is zero risk in trying something new. So why wait? Head on over to purehealthresearch.com right now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% off before this deal ends with coupon code TURLEY. Don't miss this chance to feel your best.
Policies in the federal government have no impact on the FNHU courses.
An EO has been written by President Trump, and it is unconstitutional.
Yeah,
and it is illegal.
Secret audio and document evidence shows Southern New Hampshire University is teaching students ideas such as, quote, why white school districts have so much money.
It's illegal. It's illegal. Well, as you can hear, the battle for the integrity of our education system continues as we're seeing many woke teachers and administrators fighting back against Trump's executive order demanding that federally funded schools remove DEI policies from their classrooms. New video footage revealed that New Hampshire schools are actively resisting compliance with the law. Moreover, Colorado's education commissioner and Oregon's governor have released statements that they're refusing to comply with Trump's executive order. These are just some of the left-wing lunatics who are ignoring the law and desperately trying to keep DEI in our schools. The Democrats in power want to keep DEI in our classrooms because it's an inherently Marxist ideology. We all know children are highly impressionable, so it's no wonder that these culturally communist left-wing administrators are trying desperately to keep the indoctrination in the classroom. In addition to DEI, critical race theory, and gender fluidity teachings, they've all dictated the curriculum in a way that threatens the foundational values we hold dear. And that's the key. This fight on wokeness in education isn't just a disagreement over textbook. It's a full-blown culture war, and our children are the primary casualties. Parents have become outraged as they witness their kids being taught to view the world through a lens of division and victimhood. The urgency of this issue cannot possibly be overstated as we face a generation uniquely indoctrinated and ill-prepared to navigate the complexities of life. And to make matters even worse, it's not just an issue in left-leaning states. I mean, recently, deep red Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued a school district that openly refused to follow orders to stop teaching critical race theory. And add insult to injury, as this shift toward leftist cultural Marxist ideology is occurring, academic achievement has only imploded. Shocking new reports have shown that many schools have 0 students who are proficient in reading and math. It's a problem that we've been seeing in schools around the country over the past several years, and declining academic proficiency seems to be the least of the administrators' concerns. They keep prioritizing DEI policies over any actual attempt to help students regain basic competency. Well, the good news is that amid this crisis, we've seen many notable institutions rising up and standing out among all of these decaying woke schools. Now, one of the prominent schools that has a uniquely holistic approach to education is the Centner Academy. They've been a beacon of hope, showcasing a vibrant community that thrives on values of resilience, critical thinking, and true entrepreneurial spirit amid the surrounding chaotic educational landscape. Today, we have Todd Kessler, an educator at Centner Academy, here to discuss the profound impact that this learning approach has on students and to the solutions it offers to our decaying schools. Todd, my friend, welcome. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, Dr. Steve. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a real honor to be here. I've been following your show for several years, and despite how crazy everything has become over the last several years, the one thing I love so much about watching your show is that you always end every single episode with so much hope and just optimism for the future. So I'm really looking forward to being here.
But Todd, that's easy because I got guys like you out there. So it's easy.
We're trying.
Well, I'm so glad to showcase what you guys are doing. I love what you're doing. I mean, the battle against what most of all of us see as clearly indoctrination, not education, but indoctrination in schools, like the teaching of critical race theory, gender fluidity, and the like. It's clearly heating up, as you might have heard in that recording earlier. With states like New Hampshire and even Texas, if you can believe it, seeing resistance to anti-DEI laws. So how do you see this culture war playing out in our education system?
Well, Steve, one thing that I believe is really important for the people in this country to truly understand is that just because President Trump has returned to the White House, just because there are now executive orders being signed to eliminate CRT and other woke issues from our schools, and just because the Department of Education is being abolished, that doesn't exactly mean everything's going to disappear overnight. This battle for the education of our children has to be won at the local level, which is why I believe parental involvement is so important. So some of our core values here in Miami at Centner Academy, they center around the ideas of grit, of resiliency, and of a growth mindset. Because during all the COVID tyranny that took place during the Biden administration, this school, Centner Academy, came under heavy attacks by the media just for taking a stand to advocate health freedom and medical freedom. But at the end of the day, Steve, Centner Academy was able to stand its ground, and the end result was that this school was able to build a larger community of like-minded individuals who share the same values, freedom-loving patriots from not just all over the country, but from other countries as well have joined us, and good people that just value their health, value their wellness. They love their children. They want their children to be educated and not indoctrinated. Our community is stronger than ever, and I think what happened a few years back when the media came after us, I mean, that was almost a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because that right there didn't just bring our school together. It showed us the solution to winning this battle. And that solution is forming those communities on a local level. So our school openly states, even on our website, that we oppose the teachings of CRT. We oppose the teachings of gender fluidity. We openly state that we have been opposed to the COVID mainstream narrative. So parents who visit our website, parents that come and visit our schools with their children, they know exactly what they're stepping into. This battle for our children's education has to be won at the local level in order to be successful. It's not something we can just wait for overnight changes to occur federally. It's something that I believe everyone needs to take a part of in their local community.
I never tire in reveling on how all of you were so vindicated from what happened a few years back. I mean, it's so beautiful, the ironic justice that came out of that. Looking at who's now the director of Health and Human Services and who actually ended up having to get the preemptive pardons, to keep them out of prison. I mean, it's so beautiful the way it all worked out. But it was rough at the time. We all felt it. We all know we're all in it together, all doing our part to try to resist that nonsense. And you guys did it. Centner Academy did it. You position yourself really as a point of light in the midst of a very, very dark period. And you've been this beacon of educational transformation now for years. So can you walk us through how your school is different, how it's embedded important principles into its culture and curriculum to create a very unique learning environment?
Absolutely. So our school's founder, Layla Centner, she came here with a vision. She was looking for a school that she could get her daughters involved with, a school that was going to focus on education. And it was before all the craziness really began. But once everything began, one of our core principles here at Centner Academy is resiliency. And we are a school that believes that, we can overcome, we can grow, and we can even evolve from our setbacks, then so can students. Because just learning things like how to fail, how to fail and learn from your mistakes and grow from that. We believe that is a core principle when it comes to education. So here at Centner Academy, we have this 3-tier approach that Layla Centner has helped set up to emphasize not just education, but also nutrition and wellness. And we tie it all together to make well-rounded students. So one of the big principles we hone in on is the whole entrepreneurial mindset, comprising of a student-centered education that utilizes project-based learning, a lot of hands-on activities and lessons. Students starting in elementary school take part in creating their own businesses through not just entrepreneurship classes, but they do Shark Tank presentations. They have open marketplaces where they sell their products, not only to families, but just to the general community, to the public. We do them outside. We've done that at malls before. It's a wonderful scene. And on top of this, we also emphasize that from the elementary grades all the way up through high school, students are developing this mindset that fosters creativity, it fosters creative thinking or critical thinking, and it just connects our community and makes it grow even stronger. So another key principle that our school offers here at Centner Academy deals around nutrition. And this isn't exactly something you hear a lot of schools talk about, but we take nutrition at our school very seriously. So for lunch, our lunch ingredients, our food, it's all organic. It's all non-GMO ingredients, and it's grown at a local farm that's also connected to our school. That's also owned by Layla Centner. So we have field trips. The kids go to the farm, and they get to experience, they get to see where their food actually comes from, and they get to do some hands-on activity when they go out there. And the third key principle here, Steve, on top of nutrition and on top of this entrepreneurship mindset is wellness. We take wellness just as seriously. And this doesn't just mean we're offering PE classes from pre-K through elementary, middle school, and high school. And of course, we have outdoor recesses as well. We're in sunny Miami, so plenty of vitamin D outside. Yeah. But we also incorporate a mindfulness program where students get to practice meditation through things like sound healing and other means so they can better activate the emotional intelligence of themselves. And this helps them grow and develop along the way. It's all tied together. All of our coaches in physical education have been trained in what we call brain optimization. So when they're doing activities, they're doing different sports, they're not just focusing on playing the game. They're also focusing on that mind and body connection so that students are developing functional skills, not just physically, but mentally as well. So it really is a wholeness approach to wellness, to health, into education here at Centner Academy.
Yeah, it's wonderfully holistic. And you've had, you talked about the entrepreneurship classes, which I love. And you've had even guest speakers. You've had RFK Jr. come and Ben Carson and Charlie Kirk, correct?
That is correct, yes. And we do a speaker series every month. And we have a lot of parents who are entrepreneurs. They come and speak about their businesses, how they set themselves up for success. how they invest, how students can invest and learn how to do that. I mean, the students are becoming financially intelligent as well. So, I mean, it all ties together here. The speaker series, when we had RFK Jr. arrive, when we had Charlie Kirk arrive, we had conversations that were just so deep, and we had open dialogue, open discourse that you couldn't even find anywhere else because the media wouldn't allow it. You couldn't find it on YouTube. You couldn't find it on the news. It was just like being suppressed because, I mean, you remember, it was pretty much the media telling everybody it's our way or you're a dissenter, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you know, you're just going to be defamed and called names. But we pushed through all that. We pushed through all that, and we weren't shy about it. We weren't afraid because we know real critical thinking comes from having real political discourse about issues of the day, about what's going on in society. And it's okay to question things. And that is something that not only people in general in America were afraid to do, it's something that students were afraid to do in schools because they were thinking, oh, if I question this from the teacher, I'm going to get a bad grade. Well, I mean, that's not what we're like here at Centner Academy. We're all about just question everything. It's okay to ask questions, and that is where the growth occurs.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said, you know, the stifling of free speech is ultimately the stifling of free thought, because we think in terms of speech. We formulate our thoughts in sentences and along with images, and so the attempt to clamp down on what we can say is an even more nefarious attempt to clamp down on what we are actually allowed to think. Right? It's literally Orwellian, the wrong think notion. And what I love about what you're doing too is, you know, it's very ancient. It's like the ancient Greeks. They would focus on the two verticals of gymnastiki and musiki. So, well, they'll say it in the academic Greek, gymnastike and musike. And I've been around too many Greeks that always correct my pronunciation. But gymnastiki and musiki, where the gymnastiki focuses on the well-rounded body. So you're teaching them sport as a means of virtue formation, and then the musiki is anything involving the mind and cultivating the soul and so forth. So it could be mathematics and geometry and it could be music proper and reading and so on. So it sounds to me like you've got this you're forming the full person, and the end result is a very creative and critical thinker and precisely the kind of citizen we would want in a thriving nation.
Absolutely. And some of our other key programs center around this idea as well. It's not just entrepreneurship classes that students are taking. They're also taking things like my classes. I teach public speaking at every middle school grade because public speaking is something that so many people fear in society because they just don't practice it. They just don't learn the skills, the fundamentals, how to connect with people, how to look them in the eye when they talk to them, how to persuade an audience that your voice matters when you're given a platform. That is something that we teach that is key here. And it carries over because we also have a very successful speech and debate program as well. But it carries over when they're doing their Shark Tank presentations. They know how to present with confidence, with poise. They know how to walk with a purpose, so they keep their presentation moving the same time they're walking across the floor, and they're not just randomly pacing. So we focus on the little things like that. As young as 5th and 6th grade, we get them going in this area, in this discipline. On top of that, we have marketing classes. We teach them how to not only develop products, but how to sell their products, how to market their products. We have a nice robotics program as well to just spark that curiosity. And we'll take them to robotic events on field trips. We just went to one at the University of Miami. Fantastic. Some of the best robotic schools and teams in the country coming down here. So we keep things active. The students go on a lot of field trips as well. We have grades going off to New York City, to Washington, D.C., to Boston to see what our real history looks like, to feel it and not just learn about it in the classrooms. So we really are project heavy in terms of our curriculum. We still have all the core classes as well. But if you walked around our school, I mean, you would see projects going on in just about every single classroom here. You would see students being engaged you would see creativity in action. You would see them growing. You would see that critical thinking just developing. And that's mainly what we focus in on here. What you're not going to see is that indoctrination that, you know, you see that you hear about in the media, or you might see in public schools. We just don't do that, and we don't even think about it, because we're just so honed in on what really matters. The skills that will lead to ultimate success is what we truly focus in on. And that's just something that we pride ourselves in. And if the media wants to come after us, let them come after us, because
badge of honor.
That's the type of publicity that we thrive off of.
That's right.
Out there, we'll take it.
That's right. That's right. You're all about human flourishing. So bring it on. All right. Yeah. Not ideological conformity, but human flourishing. So I mean, lastly, Todd, I mean, you're seeing the same sort of wasteland picture that I'm seeing with education and the prioritizing of DEI over just even basic academic skills. I mean, you're at a whole nother level with what you're doing there. How do you think we can turn it around as a nation? What will it take for schools to get back on track? And do you foresee this happen? I mean, we've got the Department of Education now, at least at the executive level, starting to get dismantled here, which looks like it's going to start bringing much more power to the states. Do you see that as sort of the silver lining in this? What do you see going on here?
Yeah, so I think, as we talked about earlier on, I think it really does come down to just getting the community involved. And, you know, we've seen this during the COVID years. We saw this at the school board meetings in places like Northern Virginia. You know, we've seen it across the country, and it is a continuous fight, because, again, changes aren't just going to happen overnight because they come from our president or they come from an executive order. I mean, the people still need to act and make those changes happen. We have to flip the script and either establish or modify our schools so that schools can teach students how to overcome their fears, show them it's okay to fail at times, because that is where a lot of the learning and growth occurs. That is where resiliency is given a chance to thrive. And when that happens, students become more confident in themselves. They start thinking more critically. They become better connected with their peers, their teacher, and just society as a whole. And when you add in programs like mindfulness and entrepreneurship and public speaking, students develop the lifelong skills that are necessary to succeed in this world. So, Steve, here at Centner Academy, the media could just not cancel us. In fact, the only thing they did, they made us grow stronger as a community. They turned us into a prime example of how to win this battle for our children's education, because it's not something that is going to be done at one time in every school across the country here. But when parents do get involved, when they do make the phone calls, when they do send the emails, when they do show up to their school board meetings, when they have a voice, and those students have a voice and they learn how to use that voice, when it becomes so overwhelming that those making the decision to maintain certain policies in our schools, they're just not going to stand a chance. Once the majority understands that the power really does reside in the students, in the parents, in the families, because that is the key basis. That's the fundamentals of education right there. It's not about teaching kids what to think. It's about teaching them how to think. And when you teach students how to think, that can become very scary to those that are running the show, because they want a certain agenda passed. They're not going to get that agenda passed, because students will understand. And, you know, we're going to see the movement, I think, start to spread rapidly here in the next few years, especially under President Trump, and hopefully years to come after that.
Absolutely. Todd, we've got some links down below that people can go to get some more information, but give us a little bit, if you want, where do you want people to learn more about Centner Academy and the like?
So we have a fantastic website at www.centneracademy.com. That's CENTNER Academy.com. You will find links where you can apply. We are accepting students from pre-K, elementary school, middle school, and a high school that's only in its second year of infancy here. Right. So right now we're only up to 10th grade, but next year we'll be up to 11th grade, and then we'll finally have our first graduating class after that. We are located in the heart of Miami, sunny Miami. It is fantastic. It is sunny almost every day I've been here. You know, we have It's just so beautiful, very close to Miami Beach, and there's just so much to do in this city. So if anyone is interested, anyone in Florida wants to move down to Miami, or people across the country, and maybe just people in other countries as well, we have students from all over the place. We have students from Brazil, from Colombia, from Argentina.
Awesome.
We have students from Canada. We have students from the UK. It is just a lovely sight to see, because all these students that come here, all these families that gather, they all have the same values. They all have the same drive. They all have the same goals, and they just want their children to be educated and not indoctrinated. And that's exactly what they get here at Centner Academy. But if you can't make the move to Miami, see if you can maybe take action in your own community. Make a difference. Don't just wait for the change to come. Make that change come. Find some other parents that are like-minded, get together, go to a school board meeting, write some letters, write some emails, make a difference. If something's going on at your schools, if there's something going on you don't agree with, speak out. Don't be afraid and don't live your life in fear. And I think if there's one thing that we learned from the pandemic, from all the COVID years, all that tyranny, is that you cannot live your life in fear, expecting things to get better. You have to take a stand. You got to make a change, because ultimately you hold the power. And you might not be able to change the whole world, but you can change your world that you're living in. And that's something we believe in. That's something we teach the students. And that's what we pride ourselves in here at Centner Academy, Steve.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And if everyone does that, we'll never see that tyranny again. It cowers in fear of the rising up of the people, particularly who can think critically. So, gang, as grandparents, parents, you name it, concerned citizens, I mean, it's imperative for all of us to join the charge in reclaiming our children's education. Whatever's going on in that classroom is going to transfer into the kind of culture that we have. The classroom is a place of enculturation. So whatever's going on in there, that if you think things are crazy in our culture, it's because of what's been happening in the classroom. And what I love about Centner Academy is it stands as a model of resilience and community against the torrent of left-wing indoctrination that we see in our country. So if you want to be a part of this empowering movement, focus on truth and freedom, head on over to the link in the description below and learn how you can make a difference today. It's absolutely awesome. Todd, you're awesome. Thank you so much for what you're doing, not just in your wonderful academic community of learning, but how you're impacting Florida, which is a great state. I mean, you guys are just, when I'm listening to you talk about the weather, I'm in the Northeast, and you're just showing off at that point, man. I'm almost like, oh, this is terrible, but you guys are awesome. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Just keep up the great work. And you always have a home on this channel. We love what you guys are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Steve, and same to you. I love every single episode you guys post. And again, every single time I watch your videos, it always leaves me feeling so optimistic, so full of hope. And it's just the most inspiring thing in the world, especially when times aren't that great. I always know I can just tune in and watch one of your videos, and I'm going to feel so much better about my situation, about what's going on in the world. So thank you.
It's because I know guys like you are out there. So you make it easy. Love you, Todd. Thanks so much, man.
You too. Thank you, Dr. Steve.
Did you see this? President Trump just signed an executive order outlining his plans to create America's first national sovereign wealth fund, and it'll need to be filled up with assets fast. I mean, Trump wants to go live in the next 90 days with this. The Wall Street types are already trying to pack it with real estate and infrastructure and pieces of trendy companies like TikTok. But let's not forget about gold. Sovereign wealth funds love to buy gold in bulk. Australia's been loading up. Saudi Arabia is buying the world's largest gold mine to supply itself. And even tiny Singapore recently added more than 100 metric tons of gold to its vaults. Now, can you imagine what would happen to the per ounce price of gold, which has already been surging sky high since Trump took office, if America's new sovereign wealth fund followed international best practices and made gold a part of its diversified portfolio? I mean, it would potentially make our country a brand new mega buyer in an already tight market. And when there's limited supply and huge demand, the impact on prices, well, let's just say you're going to want to be ready. Now, there's a simple way to get ready, too. It's all laid out for you in the free gold report from my partners at Turley Talks Likes Gold. discourse.com. You want to request your copy right away. You don't have a lot of time in this. President Trump has put the world on notice. A new sovereign wealth fund for America may be coming perhaps in as little as the next 90 days. Take advantage of the time you have to prepare. Get your free gold report now at turleytalkslikesgold.com. You will not be disappointed. All right, guys, we got our call-in time, 717-844-5984. That's our hotline where you can record your questions, and I will feature them on our Tuesday night and Thursday night live shows. That's 717-844-5984. Micah, what's our first question tonight?
Dr. Steve, my name is Jeff Young, and I'm from Texas. I just had a question about, I just wanted to know if maybe possibly how long will it be taking for like gas prices to come down and stay down, because Trump has been in office now for a couple of months, and it seems that the gas prices will fluctuate. It's like for a few days they go down a little bit and then they go right back up. And it's just like, I'm just curious to maybe, I don't know when they'll like go down and stay down and be, Anyways, thanks so much, Dr. Steve. You're the best. I love your channel. I watch all your videos. I'm a very big subscriber. So thank you and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you and God bless you too, and a wonderful Easter to you and your family. Yeah, great question. Great question. So from what I've been reading, yes, the fluctuations are good. We do want to see those prices going down every chance we get. And, by God's grace, because of Trump's policies, particularly if I recall, he made a deal with Saudi Arabia to ramp up their oil output. That's while at the same time we're creating the infrastructure, pipelines, and so forth for just American-centered energy. It took, if I recall, in his first term, it took about 2 years. It took about 1.5 years to 2 years before energy prices just plummeted. People mocked us when we said back in 2016 that Trump had the potential of bringing energy prices back to under or around $2 a gallon. And there we were. We were sitting at $2 a gallon on average. I think that was the national average for those 2 years. Now keep in mind, you're in Texas, so I think you're obviously good to go. But if you're in California or any big blue state, Connecticut, you're going to have a lot, even Pennsylvania, you're going to have a lot of local and state taxes imposed on your tank. Right now in Delaware, it's just under $2. But in the moment I notice when I go into Pennsylvania, I'm 10 minutes away from the Pennsylvania line. It hits up $3.30 easily, $3.30, $3.40. So the state can make a difference, but it looks like Trump has brought some relief with some of the deals that he's been making internationally with the OPEC countries, and to fill in the gap of how long it's going to take to revitalize our energy sector that really was decimated under the Biden administration. So figure within the next year, given just the speed and the rapidity that he's operating with, figure within the next year, we're going to have very low and very solid, very consistent gas prices. So should be months. It should be months from now. It shouldn't be too long.
Hi, my name is Chris Ledette, and even though I consider myself liberal, I am deeply feared that the liberals I support, would be communist. That I am deeply fearful of a communist takeover of America, which is why I pretty much denounce the liberal movement. And is my fears rational or just paranoid thinking? What do you think?
It's a great question. So, no, I think you're right. I think liberalism, unfortunately, has morphed into a kind of communism, a kind of Marxism. So liberalism at its best, so we're talking 18th century classical liberalism, was founded on two tenets. And these are probably the two tenets you're very attracted to, and rightly so, because they're very good. The first tenet is the valuing of reason over religion, sort of kind of like a blind religion in the matters of public opinion, and the restraint on executive power so as to maximize individual freedom. So the ideal of a liberal society it would be rational and it would be free. It would be rational and it would be free. You would be focusing on scientific reasoning as the basis for public policy as over and against, say, religion. And you're going to be restraining executive power so as to maximize human freedom, individual freedom in particular. What we found, ironically, is that those two tenets died at the hands of liberals. So in the 1960s, in the academy, it became fashionable for liberal academics to reimagine scientific rationalism as a Western form of colonialism. And this happened with what's the advent of called postmodernity. So modernism is rooted, it's an Enlightenment-based movement rooted in scientific rationalism. And then postmodernity basically said all that is, and there is truth to this critique, but only some, not all. That was just the Enlightenment, and modernity was just a European movement and nothing more. And so scientific rationalism, they would argue, was used as justification for the colonization of indigenous populations around the world. And those indigenous populations should be allowed to have their own epistemology, their own way of knowing. And so scientific rationalism was just one of a myriad of different ways of knowing, and then even including religious knowledge. So the fundamental tenet of liberalism, that first tenet, was basically trampled upon by liberals in the academy in the 1960s. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this. And so, ironically, irrationality became just as valid as rationality as long as you could justify it as being a part of your own cultural identity. And then the second thing, this is Patrick Deneen's thesis and why liberalism died or why liberalism failed, is he made the argument that that because liberalism redefined the human person as a sovereign individual that had no moral obligations apart from that which he chose to impose upon himself, that meant that all of what we call the mediating institutions, family, church, community, guilds, organization, what have you, that formed us morally, they were pushed off into the periphery of importance. They were cast aside, and because nature abhors a vacuum, it was the state that came in and took over the welfare programs, took over the family, redefined the family in many respects, redefined religion as just a personal, private thing that's not supposed to have any moral obligation upon you whatsoever. And so what that ended up doing is it ended up increasing the power of the government like never before. So the academy killed the first tenet of scientific rationalism, and then redefining the human person as a sovereign individual with no moral obligation apart from that which I personally choose for myself. That ended up pushing out any sort of, shall we say, para-government, intermediary, a private institution from church and family and community, and the government started taking over those functions. So that got rid of the restraining of executive power so as to maximize human freedom. So rather than have a society that was based on reason and liberty, as it were, now you have a society that's highly irrational and repressive. And enter into that Marxism. I mean, because if you think it through, what is irrational and repressive? What is more irrationally repressive than wokeness? And wokeness is basically cultural Marxism. It's not an economic Marxism. Marxists have made their peace with money. Okay. This isn't Soviet Marxism. They made their peace with money. They made their peace with billionaires and so forth. Now this is a cultural Marxism that recasts the human race in binary terms as a binary between oppressor and oppressed. So there is always an oppressor group that seeks to colonize and impose its cultural norms, including reason and its versions of liberty. It's always trying to impose cultural norms on this oppressed group. And if you want to know who belongs to which group, you just have to ask, what race are you? That's what kids are taught in CRT classes. That is critical race theory. You know which group you belong to, either the oppressed evil group or the oppressor evil group or the oppressed victim group. You know which group you belong to by virtue of your race. Your race determines which side of that binary that you're on. So it's a very pernicious, racialized, communist kind of belief system. So there you go. I think you're right in believing that liberalism has basically morphed into that. So liberalism, in terms of its ideals, are dead. And so if you're interested, if you want critical thinking, right? If you want common sense measures taken, and if you want to maximize your own individual freedom, it's definitely in the MAGA movement today.
Hey, Dr. Steve. I have a little suggestion for you. Considering the Tesla dealerships and all the Teslas being vandalized and the dealerships being burned down, if Soros really is the person responsible for doing all this, then why not make him pay for it? He does own Progressive Insurance Company, after all, doesn't he? You need to get on there and tell all your people, start buying Progressive Insurance, and that way when their Tesla gets vandalized, they can make that son of a bitch pay for it. Have a nice day.
I love it. I did not know. I'd have to confirm if there's a connection between him and Progressive Insurance. I don't know that, so I can't confirm that one way or the other. So Elon Musk has said that Doge has uncovered a definite financial ties with among all of these left-wing groups, some of which have gone so far as engaging in basically domestic, or what we call domestic, acts of terrorism. They do have financial ties with Soros and particularly his Open Societies foundations. Again, largely through USAID. Soros wasn't spending his own money with the Open Societies foundations. He was spending your money. They were getting tens of millions of dollars from taxpayer funds in order to defend democracy. That was, again, all of these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, they all angled themselves as protectors of democracy after the fall of the Soviet Union. That's where they started. They started in the 1960s, these pro-democracy NGOs to promote democracy in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union and China. And then with just the fall of the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall, what Ronald Reagan said, although these are technically NGO companies, but organizations, but he said the closest thing to return of life on earth is a government program. Well, we're finding out it's equally true of non-government organizations as well. They just revamped themselves as being for democracy in general, democracy per se. And that's why everything you're hearing against Trump is that he's an autocrat, he's a threat to democracy. J6 was the worst assault on our democratic values since 9/11, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's all they say that because that's how they get the money. That's how they've been getting the money from USAID and the like, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. And that's exactly what Soros has been doing. And then they turn around and they pay these protesters to basically be professional instigators and the like. So as I understand it, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they're all doing the legwork you need to do in order to prosecute. And so we're going to see in the next few months the extent to which the fruitfulness, as it were, of those prosecutorial efforts. So yeah, let's hope finally whoever is funding these domestic terrorists comes to justice, because it's like Elon Musk has said, it's not so much the useful idiots, the pawns. It's really the kings behind that who are funding them, without whom they wouldn't leave their mother's basement. All right, gang. With that, I want you all to have a blessed and beautiful Holy Week, or the end of your Holy Week. Blessed Good Friday, Holy Saturday. Don't forget that, the harrowing of hell on Saturday morning, as we celebrate the anticipation of the glorious rising of Christ on Easter morning, Sunday. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful